Keisha Williams adjusted the deep burgundy dress one last time, checking her reflection in the apartment mirror. 2 years. 2 years since the car accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down, and she was finally doing this again. Dating. The word felt foreign in her mouth, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. The dress fit perfectly, not too formal, not desperate. She'd learned long ago that clothes were armor, and today she needed all the protection she could get. Her best friend, Maya, sat on the bed behind her, legs crossed, watching with that careful expression people got when they didn't want to seem like they were watching. "You look beautiful," Maya said, and meant it. "I look terrified," Keisha corrected, turning slightly to check the wheelchair fit beneath the dress. The logistics of dating in a chair were endless. What to wear, how to position herself, whether to mention the chair beforehand or let him figure it out in person. She'd gone back and forth on this decision so many times that she'd nearly cancelled 3 times that morning, alone. "That too," Maya agreed. "But beautiful and terrified is honest. Honest is good." Keisha wanted to believe her. The restaurant he'd chosen was downtown, the kind of place with exposed brick and Edison bulbs and a carefully curated vibe of casual sophistication. She'd called ahead to confirm it was wheelchair accessible. The hostess had been cheerfully assured. "No problem at all," they'd said. "We can accommodate." When Marcus arrived, tall, sharp jawline, the kind of smile that had looked good in his photos, she knew within seconds that accommodate meant something different to him than it meant to her. His eyes hit the wheelchair like a physical thing. They didn't linger, but they didn't miss it either. And something shifted in his expression, just a flicker, just enough. "So," he said, sliding into the seat across from her that she'd carefully positioned with space to spare. "This is..." Keisha's stomach dropped. "I wanted you to see me first," she said quietly, running through the speech she'd practiced. "Before you saw the chair. I wanted..." Right. He glanced around, aware of a nearby couple pretending not to notice. "Look, I'm sure you're great, but I'm looking for someone I can, actually do things with. Travel, hike, be active. I don't really have time to, manage someone else's..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Keisha watched him stand up, watched him place a $100 bill on the table like that might soften the blow, like money could compensate for the look in his eyes that said broken. "I hope you understand," he said, and he almost sounded sorry. "Nothing personal." Then he left. The restaurant seemed to compress around her. The couple at the next table suddenly found their appetizers fascinating. The server approached with careful concern, asking if everything was okay with the bread, if she needed anything, that sympathetic tilt to their head that made Keisha want to scream. She sat there for 20 minutes, unmoving, staring at the empty chair across from her. She thought about leaving, about wheeling herself out with some kind of dignity, but her legs wouldn't have responded anyway. So she ordered water and pretended to read the menu and tried to remember why she'd thought she was ready for this. That was when she heard the voice. "Why is the pretty lady sad?" Keisha looked up. A little girl stood a few feet away, maybe 6 or 7, with dark skin, twin braids threaded with colorful beads, and the kind of direct, unfiltered stare that only children could pull off. She wore a yellow sundress with lemonade-colored sneakers and held a small sketchbook against her chest like a shield. Behind her stood a man in his mid-30s, dark suit, warm brown eyes, and an expression of mortification that suggested he hadn't mastered the art of parenting in public spaces yet. "Zora, we talked about personal space," he said gently, touching her shoulder. "I apologize. She's working through her filter-to-mouth ratio." Keisha managed a weak smile. "It's okay." "You are sad, though," Zora pressed, stepping closer. "That man was mean. I saw. He looked at you like you were a problem he had to solve, and then he couldn't solve you, so he left." There was something almost clinical about her observation, like she was reading something everyone else was too polite to name. The man, her father, Keisha assumed, looked like he wanted the ground to open up and swallow him. "Zora has a gift for emotional honesty," he said to Keisha, "which our therapist says is healthy, but which also makes restaurant outings complicated." Zora tilted her head. "Can we help? Daddy says we always help people who are sad. He does it with his money and his time, and sometimes his house. Mommy used to say that helping people was how Daddy fixed himself." Something flickered across the man's face, something raw. "Would you like to join us?" he asked, and there was no pity in it, just a genuine question. "No pressure. If you want to be left alone, we can absolutely go to another table. But Zora has made it her personal mission to ensure everyone around her has a good day, and she's very dedicated." Keisha should have said no, should have declined gracefully, wheeled herself out, and gone home to cry in private like a reasonable person. Instead, she found herself nodding. "Sure," she said. "Why not?" His name was Deshawn Clark. He owned a commercial real estate development company that specialized in adaptive housing, buildings designed specifically for people with disabilities, chronic illnesses, aging bodies. Properties that didn't treat accessibility like an afterthought but like the foundation. He told her this while Zora colored in her sketchbook and sipped hot chocolate with the concentration of someone performing a crucial task. "I started the company 5 years ago," Deshawn said, stirring his coffee, "after my wife got sick. She had ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Basically, her body gradually stopped working from the top down. Keisha didn't ask when. The past tense was answer enough." "She died 3 years ago," Deshawn continued quietly. "She was 34. And in those years, watching her lose mobility, I saw how much of the world just wasn't built for people like her, like you. Buildings that claimed to be accessible but weren't. Bathrooms too small to maneuver in. Doorways that were technically wide enough but still felt like a squeeze. Doctors' offices on the second floor with a single elevator that broke constantly." He took a sip of coffee. "So, I decided to build something different. Properties where accessibility isn't a luxury or a special feature. It's just the baseline. Every unit is designed for someone with limited mobility, but also for families, for elderly people, for people like my wife, who fought to stay in her own home as long as possible and deserved spaces that let her do that with dignity." Zora looked up from her drawing. "Mommy wanted to live in a house with a big bathroom and no steps," Zora said matter-of-factly, "and windows. Mommy loved windows. She said light was the only free medicine." Deshawn's jaw tightened. "She did say that. Is your mommy okay now?" Zora asked Keisha with the innocent cruelty of childhood. "Zora," Deshawn started. "Yes," Keisha said quietly. "My parents are fine, but I appreciate you asking." For the next hour, Keisha found herself pulled into something unexpected. The conversation with Deshawn was easy, thoughtful. He asked about her life, her work before the accident. She'd been a graphic designer, was trying to rebuild her portfolio. Her favorite parts of Portland, the small things that made a day feel worth living. Zora contributed observations about everything from emotional support animals. She had a stuffed elephant she'd named Therapy, because that's what adults always said they needed, to the philosophical implications of why certain foods tasted better at certain times of day. When the server brought the check, Deshawn waved away Keisha's protest about paying. "Consider it payment for giving Zora a real conversation," he said. "She's been asking me why I'm sad a lot lately. It's good for her to see other people navigating difficult things. Makes her feel less alone." Keisha wasn't sure how much of that was true and how much was kindness dressed up as honesty, but she was beginning to suspect that with Deshawn, those might be the same thing. They exchanged numbers, casually, no pressure. "Just in case," he'd said, "Zora wants to show you her drawings sometime." Keisha didn't expect to hear from him again. In her experience, good intentions had expiration dates. But Deshawn texted 3 days later. Zora made a drawing of you with a cape. She insists you need to see it. Coffee next week? Keisha found herself saying yes. Then yes, again, and again, until the pattern became expected. Wednesdays, usually, sometimes Saturdays when Zora didn't have art class. Coffee or lunch or just walking through parks where Deshawn would point out which buildings were his, explaining the design choices like he was showing her blueprints to a future they were building together. Except they weren't, Keisha reminded herself. This was friendship, kindness, the extended compassion of a man who understood loss and had decided to extend it to someone else who understood loss too. Still, there were moments when his hand would brush hers, and something electric would spark between them. Moments when he'd look at her like she was the most interesting person in the room. Moments when Zora would stage whisper to her stuffed elephant that she thought Daddy was in love with Miss Keisha, and the elephant agreed very strongly. 6 weeks into whatever this was, Deshawn took Keisha to see one of his newest properties, a residential complex in northeast Portland, all glass and light, with wide hallways and bathrooms designed for someone to have space to maneuver. Entrances without steps, kitchen counters at varying heights, bedrooms positioned so windows caught morning light. "This was my wife's dream," Deshawn said quietly, wheeling alongside Keisha through the main living space. A place where disability wasn't an emergency to manage, but a reality to design around, where people didn't have to fight their homes just to exist in them. Keisha examined the space with a designer's eye, noticing the careful attention to detail. The color choices, neutral but warm. The placement of furniture to create conversation areas without boxing people in. The absence of the usual patronizing inspirational posters that usually decorated spaces designed for disabled people. "It's beautiful," Keisha said. "It's really beautiful." "It's almost finished," Deshawn said. "Supposed to open next month. I've been wanting you to see it." There was something in the way he said it that suggested this mattered, that her opinion mattered. "Why?" Keisha asked. Deshawn was quiet for a moment. "Because you see things the way my wife would have seen them," he said finally. "Not as inspiration or pity or a problem to solve, just as spaces that either work or don't work for the people living in them, and I trust your eye more than anyone else's right now." That evening, after Zora had fallen asleep in the car and Deshawn had carried her to bed, they sat on his back porch with glasses of wine and the Portland sunset turning everything gold. "I need to tell you something," Deshawn said. Keisha's stomach tightened. This was it. This was where he'd explained that he was moving or dating someone else, or that his therapist had advised him to focus on Zora and himself for a while. "I know you think I'm helping you," Deshawn continued, "that this is me doing charity work or grief processing or whatever. But Keisha, you've become someone I look forward to seeing. You make me laugh. You call bullshit on my pretentious developer speeches. You taught Zora that strength comes in forms people don't expect. And I'm falling for you. Not because you're in a wheelchair. Not because I get to feel noble helping you navigate the world. But because you're you." Keisha wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly that she almost couldn't breathe. "This is dangerous," she said quietly. "I know," Deshawn agreed. "Everything worth having is." They were at an art opening. Keisha's showing actually, a local gallery featuring artists with disabilities. Deshawn had come with her along with Zora, who'd spent the evening leading people around and explaining her favorite pieces with the confidence of a museum docent. Keisha was examining a series of photographs when she overheard the voices near the wine table. "That's Deshawn Clark," a woman said. "The real estate guy. Isn't he the one whose wife died?" "Yeah, ALS or something. Terrible." The second woman paused. "He's been dating someone, I heard. Apparently she's in a wheelchair." Keisha's hand froze on her armrest. "Oh my God, how noble," the first woman said. "He's really committed to his whole accessibility mission, very on-brand." I read an article about him, the second continued, mentioned how losing his wife transformed his perspective, made him want to help the disabled community. It's actually quite inspirational. Definitely has a savior complex, though. Everything with him is a project. The buildings, the charity work, now apparently this relationship. He's very committed to being a good person. Keisha felt the words hit like physical blows. A project, a mission, another box on Deshawn's to-do list for redemption. She found Deshawn by the sculptures, talking with the gallery curator. "We need to go," Keisha said quietly. "What? Why? Your show is going great. Now!" She wheeled toward the exit before he could follow, navigating through clusters of people with practiced efficiency. She could hear Deshawn calling her name, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Outside, on the cold Portland sidewalk, he caught up with her. "Keisha, what the hell just happened? Is this all a project to you?" The words came out sharper than she intended. "Am I just another company you're building? Another charity case to check off your good deed list?" "What are you talking about? People in there are talking about how noble you are. Dating someone disabled, continuing your accessibility mission, helping the broken woman feel whole. It's very on brand for you, apparently." Deshawn's face went hard. "You're listening to strangers at a party instead of listening to me? Am I wrong?" Keisha's voice cracked. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't get to feel like a good person by dating me, that you're not using me to feel better about not being able to save your wife." "That's not fair," Deshawn said, but something in his expression shifted. Hurt, yes, but also recognition. Like maybe some part of what she'd said landed somewhere true. "I'm not trying to be fair," Keisha said. "I'm trying to protect myself, and right now, the thing I need protection from is you." She wheeled away, down the sidewalk, into the Portland night. Keisha ignored Deshawn's calls for a week, ignored the flowers that showed up at her apartment, which she donated to a nursing home, not out of anger, but because she couldn't bear to have them in her space. Ignored the voice notes he left, explaining, apologizing, asking for another chance. She threw herself into work instead, took on freelance design projects. Started illustrating stories about women in chairs who didn't apologize for taking up space. Women who moved through the world with agency, not inspiration. On the 8th day, a package arrived. It was a book, a real, professionally printed book. The illustrations were hers, the sketches she'd been working on for months, scanned and formatted and published into an actual story. A girl in a wheelchair who didn't need a savior because she was already saving herself. The inscription inside read, "Keisha, you were never a project. You were always just the person I chose, and I keep choosing you. D." There was a letter folded beneath it, written in Deshawn's careful handwriting. "Keisha, you were right about some things. After Shanice died, I did throw myself into work and projects, and the belief that building better spaces could somehow make up for not being able to build a better outcome for her. That was true. But you were wrong about the most important thing. You are not a project. You are someone I see, someone who sees me back, someone who makes Zora believe the world is bigger and more possible than it was before you, someone who makes me want to be better, not because of guilt, but because you deserve better. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm just asking you to know that my love for you has nothing to do with saving or fixing or redemption. It has to do with you being exactly who you are, and me being grateful enough to notice. If you want to try again, I'll be at the Cascade Cafe on Saturday at 2 p.m. The place where we met. You choose whether to come." Deshawn Keisha read the letter 3 times. Then she called Maya. "I'm going to the cafe," she said. "Of course you are," Maya replied. "You were always going to." Deshawn was already there when Keisha arrived, sitting at a table in the middle of the room. Not a corner, not tucked away, visible. There. He stood when he saw her, which was complicated logistically, but somehow felt important. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi." Keisha replied. They sat. The cafe hummed around them, indifferent to the two people trying to rebuild something delicate. I'm sorry, Deshawn said, for things that were actually my fault. I'm not sorry for falling in love with you, and I won't apologize for that. Keisha traced the rim of her coffee cup. I'm sorry for running and for not trusting you, but I need you to understand why I'm scared. I've spent 2 years watching people see my chair instead of me. When you actually saw me, I panicked, because if you really saw me and still chose me, then I couldn't blame the chair anymore. I'd have to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is terrifying, Deshawn said quietly. Yeah, Keisha agreed, it is. Zora asked about you every single day, Deshawn continued. She made like 50 drawings of you. She asked why you weren't coming to her birthday next month, and when I told her you and I had a fight, she asked if you didn't love us anymore, or if Daddy had messed it up, which felt accurate. Despite everything, Keisha smiled. How is she? Sad, but hopeful. She believes you're coming back because she's decided you have to. In Zora's worldview, things don't stay broken if she doesn't want them to be. Deshawn reached across the table. I want to try again, he said, but differently. Not me saving you, not you saving me. Just us figuring out how to build something that works for both of us. How does that sound? Keisha placed her hand in his. That sounds real. Zora's birthday party was held in Deshawn's backyard, a space he'd designed specifically for her with a garden that accommodated wheelchairs and a patio with plenty of flat ground for 7-year-olds to run in circles. Keisha helped string lights between the trees, hanging from her chair, while Zora supervised with the focus of a tiny project manager. Higher on that one, Zora directed. Daddy says Mommy would have wanted everything to be perfect. Keisha adjusted the string of lights. Your mommy sounds like she had excellent taste. She did, Zora said seriously. Daddy says I'm like her because we both know what we want. Mommy wanted to keep living, even though her body was stopping, and I want you to stay with us, even though Daddy messed up. He did mess up a little, Keisha acknowledged. But he's trying to do better, Zora said. That's what Grandma says counts. Trying to do better. The party was chaos. Kids everywhere, cake everywhere, Zora opening presents with the unself-conscious joy of childhood. Deshawn moved through it all with the ease of someone who'd learned to parent in public, and Keisha found herself integrated seamlessly into the family, helping supervise games, bandage scraped knees, mediate disputes over who got the last cupcake. When the last guest left and the sun was setting, the three of them sat surrounded by wrapping paper and deflated balloons. Best birthday ever, Zora mumbled, half asleep against her father's shoulder. After he carried her to bed, Deshawn and Keisha stayed in the backyard. The string lights cast everything in soft gold. I love you, Deshawn said. I know I said it before, but I wanted to say it again, in a moment that wasn't complicated by hurt feelings or misunderstanding. I love you. Not your wheelchair, not your strength, not your inspiration. You. Keisha's heart did something complicated. I love you too, she said, even when I was running, especially then. 1 year later, Keisha stood in front of a gallery full of people, feeling equal parts terrified and exhilarated. The walls were covered with illustrations, women in wheelchairs designing buildings, women in chairs teaching other people how to move through the world, women navigating motherhood, careers, love, survival, just women existing without apology. The exhibition was called Choosing Myself, and it had taken her 18 months to complete. 18 months of early mornings and late nights, of pushing through the voice that said she wasn't good enough, wasn't special, wasn't anything remarkable. Deshawn stood beside her, his hand warm against her back. Zora had positioned herself as unofficial gallery guide, leading people through the space with the confidence of someone who'd watched each piece develop. That one's about Mommy, Zora told an older man, pointing at an illustration of a woman in a hospital bed with light streaming through a window, her hands strong, even though her body was failing. Miss Keisha painted it from Daddy's stories, It's about how people are bigger than what happens to their bodies. Deshawn squeezed Keisha's shoulder. You did this, he said. You made something that matters. We did this, Keisha corrected. You believed in me before I believed in myself. I believed in you, Deshawn said, and I believe in us. There's a difference. Later, when most of the crowd had dispersed, Zora tugged Keisha toward a painting in the back. A woman in a wheelchair sitting at a cafe table drinking coffee, looking toward a window where light poured in. Just a woman, existing, peaceful. This is my real favorite, Zora said quietly, because she looks like you, and she looks happy. Not flying happy, just regular happy. Keisha pulled Zora close, and over the little girl's head, she caught Deshawn's eye. He smiled, that smile that had first appeared at a cafe when his daughter asked why a stranger was sad, a smile that said, I see you, and I choose you, and I will keep choosing you in the simple, ordinary, extraordinary moments that make a life.